All right, welcome aboard to a brand new week of Locked On Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Chris Maselli and Mr. Shaggy Von Doom with you today. And on today's episode, a couple Avalanche put on waivers. They cleared, but we will talk about those two specific players in Kaut and Bowers. Looks like Alex Newhook is going to have that 2C spot pretty much on lockdown for most of the season. We'll talk about Jared Bednar's comments when it comes to that. Nathan MacKinnon with a minor injury, so minor he's already back at practice, but that kind of got us to thinking, like, what could be the worst case scenarios for the Avalanche this year? What would maybe be considered an unsuccessful season for the Colorado Avalanche? And some funky scheduling done by the league. A massive question mark. I just don't get it. Let's get to it all.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, it's Monday, and it is hockey week because in just a couple days, we are going to have live action hockey featuring the Colorado Avalanche back for another season. Just a couple more days to go until live action hockey, meaningful hockey, I should say. We've had live action hockey, but meaningful hockey right around the corner. Cannot wait. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. You can follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, Locked On Avalanche on gmail.com. And you can follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. All right, sir. A lot to get to today, but we do have to mention something that is, a horrible thing that has happened. Well, allegedly has happened. I should say that. And an Ian Cole situation. If you're on Twitter, social media, or heard anything about it, it's right now. It's in such the early stages. You had a comment, or you had a Twitter page actually created by someone. I had the name and I forgot what it was. I had it up here.
It's Emily something.
Emily Smith, right?
Yeah.
Created a Twitter page, no picture. It's just a blue circle where the profile picture is. Put up a post about some horrific things that she went through that involved Ian Cole and how she was a minor when all of this stuff happened to her. That's the only thing that's one tweet. It's a picture of her statement and it's gone up and that's it. And, obviously that is sweeping through the NHL right now. And because Ian Cole is a hockey player and he was a member of the Colorado Avalanche, I don't have dates. There's no dates on this either.
Yeah.
But right before we went to record, the Tampa Bay Lightning have suspended him. And Ian Cole himself came out with a comment, and it's your typical, I deny all this. I look forward to my day in court and clearing my name. So right now, that's all we have. We have a woman saying she went through a absolutely horrific, and she gets a little bit detailed in that. So if you want to read it, feel free, but just be forewarned. And then you have him, rebuking that. So everything is in we're getting information stage, and we'll talk about it when it gets fleshed out more. But it's, if all of this is true, Ian Cole's hockey career is the last thing that he should be worried about. It's not going to be a good rest of his life, because it might be in a jail cell if all of this is true.
Yeah, this is one of those situations. It doesn't matter what sweater you're wearing. Humanity and ethics and morality comes first, and
Yep,
it's all the initial stages. And you honestly hate to hear this.
Yeah, and she gets pretty detailed in her description. So we'll just have to see this thing through and see where it goes. But ugly situation for her, for the NHL. It's just, you hate reading stuff like that, and you hate to think that stuff like that happens to people, but it does. And whether or not he's a hockey player doesn't matter. Just like you said, humanity just comes into play here, and apparently there was none there.
Yeah, heartbeats under the sweater, that comes first, and especially just after everything that we went through and had to endure with the Hockey Canada situation.
Right.
Like, this is This is the stuff that we've been talking about needs to be cleaned up, and we will find out eventually how much cleaning needs to be done.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll keep our eyes and ears on that as it happens or whenever it happens. But for now, we'll switch our attention to the Colorado Avalanche and a couple of their last minute waivers that they threw out there on Saturday. And the two big names were really the only two names that they had on Saturday were Martin Kaut and Shane Bowers. I thought, why not? They're two kind of, especially Kaut, maybe not so much Bowers, but again, both of them are first round picks. So I thought there's got to be maybe a team, one of those low end teams might take a flyer on them and see what they get. And so a little bit surprising that nobody did.
I'm surprised, and I'm kind of opposite of you in that. I would think that Shane Bowers would be picked up off the curiosity factor. With
Yeah.
this Martin Count situation, you've seen him and what he can do, and the woes to make the Avalanche roster, especially when injuries are just kind of how the Avalanche just navigate a season. He still hasn't made a place on the roster. Other teams notice that too. So there must be something there. So Shane Bowers, there's still this unproven upside that you might want to take a chance on. But it's interesting to see both clear the waivers and land with the Eagles. We'll
Hmm.
see where the development goes, but it was interesting nonetheless.
And Jared Bednar said specifically about Shane Bowers that he thought he had a good camp and he could see him bringing him up at some point. And I thought it was a little bit interesting that he said that before they had cleared waivers,
Yeah.
because if I'm a GM and you're looking at the Colorado Avalanche as kind of like the model franchise right now because they just won a championship, if he's good enough to at some point in the season get called up because he had a good camp, my ears are
Yeah.
ringing, and if I'm anybody, even well, I shouldn't say anybody because the top teams really don't go after a lot of waiver wire players. But if I'm someone like Arizona or Chicago, why not? Hey, he's
Sit
good
him
enough.
down and say, "Tell me everything you know."
He's good enough to go up to the Avalanche if something goes wrong. Why not? So when I saw Bednar said that, I kind of was like, oh man, like I wish he didn't say that. Say that after the fact. So if they
Yeah.
clear, or even if he gets picked up, say I'm a little bit disappointed that he got picked up because I thought he had a good camp and I thought
Yeah.
if someone got hurt, he could have come up for us. Or if he does clear, I'm happy he cleared because I thought he had a good camp, and if someone gets hurt, he can come up for us. So it was a little bit, you got to watch your words sometimes, Jared. You got to know your audience, and timing is key here.
This is where I'm at a disadvantage because like my favorite show of all time is Twin Peaks, and you always
Right.
got to like look underneath what they're saying. What if he said that trying to protect Kaut, hoping that somebody would pick up Bowers instead, and just putting that out there. Oh, I sure hope nobody takes Bowers. He had a really good camp,
He
and
did. He
and
did
and
say it about Powers. Yeah.
yeah, and protecting Kaut and like kind of
Yeah.
like, we don't know about
Yeah.
him, but they really do know
Yeah,
about
okay.
him. Like, you never know. Coaches,
No, yeah,
crazy
right,
folk.
right. But they both clear.
Yeah.
So Cow, I don't know. I kind of feel a little bit bad for him just because now his own words of saying,
Yeah.
this is my last shot. Um, he's got to feel down. He just has to, because it's almost like if he's saying that, he's putting all of his effort in. I'm not saying that he didn't put effort in the past, but if he's saying like, this is my last chance, and what he put out there still wasn't good enough. I don't know. Let me bring up his cap friendly, but
Well,
I got to think he's done after this. He's going to want to go somewhere else and give it a go.
I know I have not been singing the praises of Kaut and his performance throughout the playoffs and the preseason and the camp,
Mhm.
but this is also where Newhook started last year, and look at where he is
Yeah, but
now.
a different
But
level, though.
we haven't even started the season, and we've already seen the absence of Landeskog, Nuke, and McKinnon for a little bit with whatever he's got going on. JT Comfer for a little bit. Injuries are a part of the game, so he can prove himself in Loveland and find his way back onto the team at some point. Like we
Sure.
started last year with Maltsev, and now he's also dancing around in Loveland. So
Sure.
it's not all said and done for Kaut yet. Yeah, he didn't make the starting roster to start the season, but that you could clearly see with how the Avs started last year and where they ended up, that doesn't necessarily mean a lot because you can join us at some point in the season.
Sure. Yeah, you can always play through it.
Yeah.
This is his last year, and then he is a restricted free agent. But that really doesn't mean the Avs can trade his rights if they wanted to. If they felt like he just this is the end of the road for him, we'll see. That's after this year. We can revisit that. But you're right. He can. I mean, he probably was down on himself for a day, but in the end, you're a hockey player. And you're still playing for a team.
Yep.
You're still playing for a team that needs you. So yeah, if you just show your worth down at the level that you're playing at, and you make those guys up at the Avalanche level kind of take notice of like, all right, we sent him down again, and he's having the best year of his life down with the Eagles. Let's see what bring him back up again. Who knows? You have
Yeah.
no idea. You have no idea.
Don't go down there and just be all sad and depressed
Be a
and
body.
say, it was my one shot. I'll just be
Yeah.
here forever. They're paying attention to how you react to this adversity.
Yeah. And then on Sunday, Jared Bednar at a press conference said, Alex Newhook is our 2C. He pretty much denounced it and kind of said they're going to let him ride this out, ups and downs, because he even threw out the trade deadline, would even let him be in this role until the trade deadline. And if it's not working out, they'll address it through a trade. So in a way, like I like that. So Alex Newhook is not always looking over his shoulder, thinking, "Man, I put together like 2 bad games. Am I going to walk to the arena today and I'm going to be down a peg?" He doesn't have to worry about that now.
Yeah.
He can just go in, he can play. If he has a bad game, he knows that he's got the coach's word. It's okay. Work through it, and we'll work through it with you. So I kind of like that he made the announcement the way that he did.
And it's not just a commitment to Newhook and what he can do. Like he now knows his role, which is something that everybody's been trying to figure out in the preseason. And also, when I heard that statement, I immediately thought Kaut. Like that was another way of being like, hey, trade deadline, we're also looking. It doesn't matter what's going on with this team. We're still going to be active. So another reason to fire up all those that we've talked about on the waiver wire that are going back to Loveland. Hey, it's step up, like continue to do stuff in Loveland because we will be active and you will be moved if you're not going up or down.
Yeah. So we pretty much know, that mystery is gone. I think that was the big remaining question for the Avs, and there you have it. And like we were saying, we kind of figured it was going the route of Newhook, but just throwing that much support behind him to start the season, I think is a smart move, smart thing to say for Bednar and the Avs. Yeah.
And to Avalanche fans, how good are we right now that this is a big deal? Who's the 2C in Colorado? Like with all
Yeah.
the injury concerns and everything going on, like for us to finally announce our 2C, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. Where that's our big news. It's a good deal.
Right. All right. Let's hear from Athletic Greens, and then we'll get to Nathan McKinnon's minor injury, which was so minor he only missed, I think, a half a day of practice. But kind of gets us thinking like maybe worst case scenarios for the Avalanche this year. And then funky scheduling by the NHL. I don't get the decisions sometimes. But first, Athletic Greens. You've heard us talk about Athletic Greens in the past. Kyle has a coffee cup. There it is. Not the coffee cup, the coffee container holding that delicious Athletic Greens. And what is it? It's 1 scoop of Athletic Greens in your morning water, and you are absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your recovery, focus, and aging, everything that is important to you. And Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up in a complicated supplement routine to recover, which cost him over $100 a day. So he created Athletic Greens, which costs you less than $3 a day, and you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your coffee, Dunkin', Starbucks habit, and it's cheaper than getting all of those different supplements yourself at once. You're investing in your all-in-one nutritional insurance, and right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with the convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day, and that is it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Once again, it's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Pairs really good with your coffee.
Dump it in your coffee. Why not?
Yeah, it's the best. It's what I do.
All right. Nathan McKinnon tweaked something. We don't know what that was, but it was enough for him to leave practice early, and he was back the next day. So first of all, how'd you think when you heard that? Did you think like, oh boy, here we go again with the injuries, especially Nathan McKinnon, who didn't start last year on time? You already have Gabe Landeskog's out. Were you thinking like, let's not start the season off on the wrong foot yet again?
See, this is how you know we spend too much time together. You know exactly what my thought process was, but I chased that all the way down with Nathan McKinnon. Like,
Yeah.
oh God, here we go. But then I remembered he's Wolverine. Like Taylor Hall caved his face in last year, and he was back in a week. Like he
Oh
messed up
God,
his
that was the
wrist,
worst.
and he was like back. It was like multiple weeks. You never knew when he was coming back, but he was back like the next week. So I was like, yeah, he's injured, but he's like Deadpool or Wolverine. He can heal, no problem. His blood is vibranium or unobtainium. So like
Adamantium. Yeah.
he could. It was concerning, but then
You know
for
what,
like you
man?
said, he's
Like,
back. So
yeah.
you're like, okay,
Again,
sure.
how you phrase things, I'm picking up on, and like tweak something. I wasn't that concerned. Like I wasn't that concerned about the start of the regular season. This was on Saturday when he said he tweaked something. And I'm like, okay, like I'm kind of just reading like the language there, and it's not like, because Jared Bednar has been very honest about injuries in the Avalanche, as far not as far as what they are, but like time frames.
Hmm.
He will come out and say they'll give you the typical upper body, lower body, but he'll come out and say, remember he did it with Devon Taves last year.
Yeah.
He's like, I think we're going to be missing him for a while. And he kept saying for a while. But he'll tell you if it's day to day or week to week, or he tweaked something. And because he said it like that, and he's been so honest in the past, I genuinely wasn't that concerned. So, and here he is, he's already back. And you're right, like he is in phenomenal shape. So an injury, like you and I tweak something, well, maybe not you, but me. I'm out for like till Christmas. Nathan McKinnon tweaks something, and that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's he'll be fine by breakfast.
He looks at it and he's the new Chuck Norris.
He is a Chuck Norris beam. Yeah. I know. He just has some chickpea pasta and we're good. We're good to go.
That's all it is.
So, but it got me thinking like, okay, like injuries, they're going to happen. We're going to have some throughout the regular season, just like every other team. But as far as like the season goes and kind of like looking at this season, big picture, what are some maybe like worst case scenarios for the Avalanche? And it could be anything. Could be injuries, could be play, could be how they end up the season. But is there anything on your mind thinking like, yeah, this could be if X happens, that's a worst case scenario for the Avs.
Yeah, easily. Especially with our goalie situation right now. If we lose Cale Makar or Taser for an extended amount of time, like we have taken for granted what they do and what they bring to this team and their level of play and how it trickles down to the next defensive pairings. it's going to be really hard for these goalies to find their footing without number 7 or number 8.
Yeah.
And if we lose them till the trade deadline, this could make for a really rough start to the season and maybe skew our views of what the goalies could look like and what the defense looks like and what the team actually is. I feel like if one of those go down, like it's easy to say one of the forwards, one of the poster guys. I really feel like we have taken Cale Makar and Devon Toews for granted, and we only realize it when we lose them.
I don't think with Kale. No, I think people understand fully what they have in him, and maybe there's some people maybe don't like watch the Avalanche daily, or maybe just that Avalanche fan that they check on them in the morning. Like, did they win? Maybe they don't understand like the importance of Taves. But yeah, if he were to leave, if he were not leave, if he were to get injured and miss a significant amount of time, um, it would obviously suck for the team. But I think that how we were talking about Nazem Kadri and how if someone like McKinnon got injured or Landeskog got injured, you always had Nazem Kadri there, and you just felt comfortable. If Makar were to get hurt, I don't. That uncomfortability is going to be
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah.
If Taves were to get hurt, definitely would have some uncomfortability. But I feel like that would be an opportunity for like Bowen Byram to step up. And God, I mean, imagine him with Cale Makar. He would take that opportunity and run with it. So yes, the team, the look of the team, the dynamic of the team, as far as defense, would be different because Taves is an all-world defenseman. But I think the defense that they have, I think you could slot someone in and be happy with what they would give if Taves weren't there. And I'm not trying to say, well, we could just overcome Taves' injury. No,
I
but I just feel
feel
like, yeah,
I feel Taze is on that level. He's the defensive Val Nichushkin. You don't appreciate him till he's gone, and you feel that when Nuke's out. Like when he's back, you're like, "Oh, that's the style of play we
yeah,
missed." You
right.
feel that same thing with Taser. When he's out, it's you feel a vibe shift with the team and the
Hmm.
synergy, and then when he comes back, you're like, "Oh, that's why things didn't feel right. That's
Yeah.
the missing piece. That's why if he's gone for extended amount of time, especially with like this is like a full season with Manson and who knows what EJ is going to look like this year. Like and the defense, I mean the goalie situation. There's a lot of things that can compound with the absence of Taser.
Well, what about that just in itself, the goalie situation? Forget about like if there's injuries on the defensive end. Just obviously, this is a big chance that the Avalanche are taking with their two goalies. And just like I said, worst case scenario, what if it doesn't go the way that we were wanting it to go? What if Georgiev
Bebo's on
is
waivers.
what's that?
I said Bebo's on waivers.
Oh yeah, sure. But I mean, that's not going to solve anything.
No.
You're going on the waiver wire now. Like this is something that we've been saying it all off season ever since they acquired Georgiev. Is this? I'm going to be watching it because this has got to work out for them in one way or another. And maybe they were just like, we'll take a flyer on Georgiev to see if he can be that guy that everybody thought he was going to be. If he's not, we're confident what we have in Francouz, but he's never been an A1 guy either. So, I mean, worst case scenario is both guys don't fit the bill. And then you are putting how we were saying, like if you lose Tage, you're putting a lot of pressure on the goaltenders. If both these guys struggle, you're putting more pressure that needs to be on the defense.
Both goalies need to realize we're asking them to help us win game 6-3 instead of 6-5. Like we're not asking you to go out there and steal us a game. Like
Yeah, but it'd be nice to have that, man. It would just be nice
when
to
was the last time we've had that in Colorado? With all
um
of the
Grubauer's last year. I mean, he was on fire that year. He really was. I mean, but that was that was going into his free agent year, so he played above his head.
yeah, I was about to say there
But it
wasn't a
hasn't happened
moment
a
where
lot.
you were you didn't feel confident going night in, night out. Like if everything falls apart, at least we have Grubauer. Like we haven't had a goalie since Patrick Waugh that you were completely confident night in, night out. If
Mhm.
everything doesn't work on the offense, we have a goalie to bail us out. Like, go back and look. Like our it has not been incredible story between the pipes for the Avalanche. So we're not it's more of the same. You're not asking a lot out of the goalies, but they also have to meet us there. Like if things aren't working, you have to stand up. We can get the goals. You just need to help us out. Don't put us down 2-0, 3-0. Because granted, we've done it
That's a
before.
good
We've
point.
worked out
Yeah.
of holes, but
But you don't want to
just
be
help us
playing
out
every
here.
game from
Yeah,
behind. You don't want to be
exactly.
doing that. Like, yeah, if you're up 3-0, 4, you give up a goal. Okay, we can live with that. Although 3-0 is not the lead that you want to start giving up goals, but it's there.
Yep.
It's real. It's a story. It's something that we got to watch. As far as standings go, is it? I don't want to say maybe the worst case scenario, but is this? You're going to have some teams close to you in the standings. If you don't win the Central, is that a worst case scenario for the Avs?
Yeah, easy. You can't convince me there's no way they shouldn't win the Central.
No,
And
no,
if
I
you
think they
don't it
should.
if
Right.
if they don't win the Central, that completely derails their mentality going into the playoffs.
You think so? Because and the reason why I brought it up is because do you think the Avalanche, now that they've won one and know that they can, do you think they have the Tampa Bay Lightning mentality of "Well, just get to the playoffs? Just get to the playoffs and then we know we can go far. It doesn't matter where we play, doesn't matter who we play. If we get into play, it doesn't matter if we didn't finish number one in the division or got a wild card spot. We play just to get into the playoffs and then we just take off. Do you think the Avalanche have that mentality, or they could have that mentality if they don't win the Central? I think they obviously want to win the Central, but if they don't, do you feel like they would still have that mentality of like we're just as good even though we didn't win the division?
This is Nathan MacKinnon, Gabe Landeskog, and Mikko Rantanen's first time being defending cup champions. It's going to be a lot of pressure on them.
Right.
And you've seen what twisted wrister Nathan MacKinnon does when it comes to like his mentality on things. If the weight gets heavy and it looks like they might miss the playoffs or their seeding is going to be not as incredible as it has been in years before, that's going to weigh on them. I really feel like Nathan MacKinnon and the way this team is operating, if it's not top of the Central going into the playoffs, they're already going to start kind of panicking and doubting themselves. Like they have to win. It's their goal is win the Central, get back in the playoffs, defend the cup. And if
Right.
one of those things are derailed, I wonder how this team will act and respond.
I don't. I feel like they will be unfazed by it. At least that's what they will say.
Yeah, that's what
They'll
they'll
say
say.
like, winning the division was not, and they've said it about the President's Cup, like even last year, like it was not our goal to win the President's Cup. The goal is win the Stanley Cup. We've won the President's Cup. We've already done that. So they've done everything. They've won divisions. They've won the President's Cup. Now they won the Stanley Cup. So
If they
I
don't
don't
win
think
the Central, something is wrong, and that could be compounding on. Because honestly, there's no reason this team should not win the Central.
the only reason they wouldn't would be injury wise, or if a team like Minnesota or Nashville just goes off and just has an incredible season, and the Avs, not to any fault of their own, just finished second in the division. I don't see it happening, but if it does, I don't think the Avs will panic. I think they'll be just fine. I think like okay, congratulations to everyone in the division. You haven't won anything yet. You've won a division, and that's really it. So I don't know. I think they want to, and they're playing to win it. But if it doesn't work out that way for whatever reason, we don't know what the reasons are right now. If they were to lose it, if they just got beat outright, nothing you can do about that. Then you just get into the playoffs and you go make another run at it.
That's- I find it interesting. Like if they're not winning the Central, we have to take back everything we said in the offseason about this being one of the best teams that we've seen. Because if they can't do it again, like, what's in their way? Nobody else has improved. Like, Nashville's made
Um,
tweaks, Minnesota's
yeah,
made tweaks. Like, they were leaps and bounds,
I
like,
think
talking about being the formula for building a winning team, and then you go back and take a huge step backwards?
yeah, I think the narrative will be if they do, if they don't win the Central, I think the narrative will be the 3 guys that they lost in free agency were that important to this team. I think that'll be the narrative.
This season is the difference between the Colorado Avalanche being the Tampa Bay Lightning Part 2 or St. Louis and Washington.
Mm.
One and done. Like that's the importance of this season and the
No,
legacy.
I mean, I don't see a one and done thing happening because you always have another off season where if you don't get it done, this Avalanche team in this front office is going to be like, okay, we got to go get what we didn't have last year. So I mean, if it doesn't happen this year for whatever reason, I think they'll reassess and have another fight for next year. So that's kind of where they're at right now. They know they have these guys that are a huge core for them. And they're not going to let that go. So if it doesn't happen this year, they're going to retool and say, all right, what do we got to go get? And that's what they're going to do. So remains to be seen. All right. I want to hear from people out there. What do you think worst case scenario? If the Avalanche, we didn't even talk about that. If they don't win the Stanley Cup, that's a question for another episode. Is that a worst case scenario? But if they get there, is that good enough or is it no? Even if you get there, you have to win it. That's a good conversation. Maybe we can save that one for before the season starts. But as far as the season starting, here's another just gaffe by the NHL where fine, you want to play games in other countries and expand the game because the game is global and you have players from however many countries are playing in this league. You have a lot of eyes on the sport around the globe. You want to play in other countries, and the Avalanche are doing that this year too. Why schedule it where you have 2 teams play in another country, back-to-back games, and then the next day you still have teams playing preseason games? We had conversations about how to make opening day huge. There's some people that don't even know opening day happened, which technically it's already happened. It happened in another country, and that's fine if you want to go do that. There was no buildup to these games between the Sharks and
Nashville.
Sharks and Nashville. And to the untrained NHL player or fan, they were just preseason games. Why? Because preseason games followed them the next day. Explain this to me. I don't get it.
Okay, and you just kind of proved the point on how just, I'll say it, dumb this was. Like, how many people really knew San Jose and Nashville were playing? 1, overseas. 2, 3, that it was an actual regular season game. Nobody. There was no marketing. You know why? It was all pushed to opening day, where the games count. But this game counted. Why are we not talking about it? Why is there no fanfare? This should have not been a regular season game because apparently in the NHL's eyes, this isn't opening day. So why did it count? And honestly, guess what? In the grand scheme of things, when the season's over, it doesn't matter if it counted or not. That game is irrelevant. It's not going to matter. I don't know why they decided to make that a regular season game. Made no sense at all. There was not a lot of hype or fanfare around it, and it was just a wasted opportunity. Why not send them the same week that Colorado goes and does their global game? Push that back over there and really make it a spectacle. It was just wasted. So nothing like, oh, this is actual regular season hockey. They care. And then you go watch a preseason game. It makes no sense. It takes all of the energy out of it. Thanks, Gary Bettman.
A buddy of mine who's a Rangers fan, he was going out to a bar to go watch the Ranger game, and he thought it was the opening game for them, and then he got there and realized, like, wait, they don't play the Islanders on game 1. Why are they doing that? And then he sent me a text. He's like, I thought the regular season started. And I was like, oh, no. So it's confusing the heck out of people. And like I said, like it for people that just like want to go watch hockey because it's opening day and they're, it's I do that with baseball. Like I don't watch baseball every single day in, day out, but opening day is kind of like special in baseball. And I'll just flip around and I'll just watch games. It's enjoyable. It's the start of spring. And for a lot of people, like that's for hockey too. And to have two meaningful games followed by a dozen preseason games at the same time is just pointless to me and mind-blowing, baffling. I don't get it. And this is another failure on the NHL's part of not being able to seize a big moment and not having your opening night be a spectacle. It's just a mixture. I can't wrap my head around why they would do this.
The NHL took opening day, which is the original trilogy of Star Wars. The Nashville San Jose game was the prequels. Yeah, it's just whatever. And last year when it was Calgary or it was the year before when Calgary was still playing regular season games while the playoffs were being played. It was
Yeah.
Vancouver. Wait, I cannot. It was Vancouver was playing regular season games while the playoffs were going on, and nobody was watching them. It was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the Disney
It's the Disney trilogy.
sequels. So that's how the NHL is running this, and it was
Man,
huge gaffe, and we're going to laugh about this for years and years
I
and
don't
years.
get it.
No offense to the
But
teams that were participating. I bet you it was
no,
fun.
it's nothing to do
Glad
with
everybody
them.
had a great time, but thanks
But-
for wasting our time.
But why wouldn't they do this again next year? Because they're going to be like, oh, this was so successful over there. And hopefully it was. But then make a big deal about it. Don't run preseason games day of and the day after. Clueless. I don't get it.
This is really making it easy for us to run the league one
It
day.
is. Just hand us the keys, man. We'll take care of it. All right. And then the last one we want to get to is EA NHL 23 ran their official simulation. We posted about this on our social media pages. They have the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup final again against the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is one that we were throwing around as one that we would want to see because of the McKinnon and Crosby friendship and therefore matchup. That would be fun. They have Pittsburgh actually beating the Avalanche in 7 games, nonetheless. So they have Pittsburgh winning the Stanley Cup championship over the Avalanche. And interestingly enough, they have the Avalanche, the route to the Stanley Cup final is eerily similar to one that they just did. They have them beating, and they don't have in how many games. They only did how many games for the Stanley Cup final. They have them beating the Predators in the first round. They have them beating the St. Louis Blues in the second round. And they have beating the Edmonton Oilers in the conference final. Pretty eerie there. And some other things in here that are kind of interesting. They have the Toronto Maple Leafs making it to the Eastern Conference Finals against those Pittsburgh Penguins. And they also have the Seattle Kraken punching a ticket to the playoffs. So I think other than they have the only different teams from last year that I can see are the Kraken, and they have the Islanders in there as well. And I think everybody else is all the same. So thoughts on EA with a terrible simulation?
Okay, I've bought every EA NHL game since NHL 99.
Mm-hmm.
EA fixture game. 2, they might not be too far off with that Seattle thing.
I don't think Seattle's there yet. I don't think they have that much of a turnaround. Like that would be Colorado Avalanche level of a turnaround to make a playoff spot. They're getting there, but they're going to be improved. I mean, you can't get much worse from what they did last year, and they will be improved, but I don't see a playoff spot yet.
And mark my words right now. This is October 10th,
Okay.
2022. If the Pittsburgh Penguins beat the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup, I am shaving my head. There is no way.
Yes.
There is no way that happens.
Okay.
Fix your game, EA. My hair is on the line, but it's gone. There's no way. I don't understand where this is coming from. I get it. Sidney Crosby, he's great.
Yeah.
But put the two teams rosters side by side. There's no way. This is like a Disney movie. There's no way this team should beat this team. I don't care how many simulations you run. It's just no way.
Okay. And Shaggy's got some luscious locks. I mean, don't call him Shaggy for nothing. So look at that. Blowing in the wind. And he's inside. It's just one of those natural things. There's wind constantly goes through your hair, even when there's no wind to be had. It's just one of those.
That's why I wear a hat so I don't get stopped on the street all the time.
All right. So a lot to comment on there, fellow listeners. So fire away in the comment section. We want to know your thoughts on everything we talked about today. And then until then, we'll be back tomorrow. Special guest, Miss Katie Gauss from Altitude Sports will be joining us. So she's waiting in the wings for tomorrow, and excited to talk to her about what she's expecting for her season on the sidelines with the Avs. So that'll be exciting. Until then, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Mr. Kyle Sullivan, Shaggy Von Doom. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.